Go, 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 go.
What's going on, guys? Today I have my absolute favorite rifle build of all time. My personal new primary rifle, a beautiful burnt bronze VFC Avalon, equipped with a Polarstar F2 HPA engine, and kitted with the cream of the crop, Bloomy's Airsoft R-Hopped barrel kit. This video is going to be broken down into 4 chapters. First, I will run through the HPA engine installation, showing you guys how to properly install the Polarstar F2 into the VFC gearbox. Second, I will talk through my inner barrel and upgrade parts, showing you guys what products I recommend and how to install them. Third, I'll touch on what rifle accessories and optic I chose to complement this build. And then lastly, I will bring this build to the Chrono station, showing you how all of these parts come together to work as one, as well as some awesome MILSIM gameplay, showing you how this rifle performed on the field. Spoiler alert, it's amazing. Feel free to use the timestamps provided below to skip ahead, but for now I'll just dive into the HPA engine installation. With the brand new VFC Avalon out of the box, I punch out the front and rear body pins to remove the upper receiver. Sliding the upper off of the lower, I can now remove the stock. In my case, the stock was an extremely tight fit, so I had to use an Allen key or a punch tool for leverage to get it completely off, carefully guiding the wires through as I remove the stock. Following the stock removal, I use a small Allen key to remove the pistol grip plate, allowing me to access and unhook the red and black motor connection wires. With the wires disconnected, the motor can now be pulled out. To completely remove the pistol grip, I unscrewed the 2 Phillips head screws at the base of the pistol grip. The grip can now be pulled off and set aside. Next up, I'll punch out the smaller body pin above the trigger that holds the gearbox in place. To remove this rather unique mag release, I use an Allen key to remove the grub screw on top, and once the grub screw is off, the mag release button itself can then be unscrewed and removed, allowing the mag release system to fall free. I like to reassemble this system on its own and set it aside, just so that none of the parts can get away from me while I work on the rest of the rifle. Moving on, to remove the buffer tube, it's simply a long Phillips head screw that needs to be removed from the base of the buffer tube. From there, I can guide the wires through as I remove the buffer tube and sling plate. Next up, I remove the bolt catch simply by punching out the pin, and then gently guiding out the bolt catch. To remove the fire selector, I use an Allen key to remove each screw, and then the selectors will fall free. Keep in mind here, there is a ball bearing that's going to fall free when you remove the left-hand side selector switch. Just keep this in mind because that ball bearing is crucial to keeping your selector switch nice and crispy. With the fire selectors then removed, punching out the rear body pin will allow the gearbox to be pulled free. As I'm pulling the gearbox out, the selector switch gear system is going to fall free. Just gather up the gears and pay attention to the reassembly later for proper reinstallation of the gear set. Here I found the ball bearing from the selector plate running wild. You can see how small it is as I place it back into the selector switch for safekeeping. With the gearbox isolated, it's time to remove the AEG components and replace them with the Polarstar F2 HPA engine. First thing I'll do here is remove this spring-loaded lever. This interacts with the bolt catch. Next up, using a Phillips head, I loosen all of the body screws around the gearbox. And before cracking the gearbox open, I use an Allen key to remove the quick release spring, removing all tension from inside the gearbox. With this spring removed, the gearbox shell can then be pulled apart. I need absolutely nothing from the internals here other than the trigger and the existing hardware. So pulling out absolutely everything I see will have a blank canvas for the HPA engine installation. With the gearbox shell completely cleared, I give both sides a good cleaning. To install the Polarstar F2, I drop the assembled engine into place. locking the trigger board in place with the gearbox's pre-existing Phillips head screw. I then take some time to study the gearbox and decide how I want to route my wires and hoses for battery placement in the rifle stock. Next up, I'm adding a small piece of adhesive Velcro to the trigger contact area on the gearbox. This will slightly reduce trigger movement, keeping the trigger contact much closer to the micro switch, essentially shortening trigger pull. Laying the trigger and spring into position, you can see how it's now slightly elevated as it rests on this Velcro pad. And then by placing the Polarstar F2 provided retention piece into the rear of the gearbox, I can begin to close it up by reinstalling all of the gearbox screws. With the gearbox now together housing the HPA engine, I test the Polarstar F2 as well as its interaction with the selector switch plate. As you can see here, with the selector switch in the semi-auto position, this rifle is still firing in full auto. This means that the selector plate is making contact too early with the micro switch. By shaving down the contact side of a selector plate with the Dremel and then reinstalling it, I adjusted where the selector plate makes contact with the micro switch, keeping zero contact on safe, zero contact on semi-auto, and then full micro switch contact on full auto. From here, I will reinstall the selector gear set. The only orientation you have to worry about here is that making sure both selector switch plates are aligned with each other on either side, meaning that they are in the same position during safe, semi, and auto orientations. I'll admit this could have been done sooner, but I now take the time to reinstall the bolt catch spring system. Holding all of the selector plate gears in place so they don't fall loose, I can now drop the HPA installed gearbox into the lower receiver. And now it's just disassembly in reverse. I'll punch the body pin back in, and then reinstall the selector switches, keeping in mind that the left-hand side selector switch includes a very small ball bearing that allows the switch to snap into place. After that, I reinstall the mag release system, and then lock it in place with the final grub screw. Moving on to the buffer tube, I guide the sling plate over the wires, guide the buffer tube onto the sling plate, and then use the pre-existing screw and spacer to lock the buffer tube into the gearbox. To get the pistol grip to work properly, I dremeled out a hole in the middle of the grip to allow the HPA hose to pass through snugly, and then reinstalling both screws at the base of the pistol grip locks it in place. I also dremeled out the same sized hole on the base plate of the pistol grip, making for a cleaner HPA hose exit hole. With the rifle fully assembled, my battery can now be connected and held in the rifle stock. And that completes the Polarstar F2 engine installation. For my inner barrel and hop-up assembly, I turned to Bloomies Airsoft for a complete drop-in kit. The kit includes an R-hopped 6.03 inner diameter lambda inner barrel, 363mm in length, a Prometheus purple flat hopped bucking, a MAXX CNC Pro hop-up unit for Polarstar, and an M-nub on the MAXX hop-up trolley. This R-hopped barrel setup provides nice and flat hop-up contact, making for extremely consistent and straight shooting. Bloomies Airsoft builds and sends out complete drop-in kits catered for your rifle, so installation on my end is as simple as dropping it into the upper receiver and then assembling the rifle. For my optic, I am using the V30 red dot sight. I did a complete review video on this, so check out the link below to see why I like it so much. For my muzzle device, I'm using the SRC 14mm MAXX suppressor. And I've actually went and filled it with sound absorbing foam rings, which drastically reduces the overall sound profile when shooting. For my foregrip, I am of course using the Gunfighter BCM. This is my favorite vertical grip. And for my flashlight, I am using the Navrich rifle flashlight. I then went and filled some of the rail gaps in with 2 different style rail covers, and just as all the products shown in this video, you can find links to all of them in the description below. And last but not least, I was toying around with this boost decal along the receiver. Once I threw it on, I actually thought it looked pretty good, and it didn't stand out as much as I thought it would. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. Does it tarnish the rifle, or is it the perfect personalized touch to brand it as my primary rifle going forward? At the Chrono station with 0.3 gram BBs, I was seeing an FPS variance of about 5 or so. With my tank set to 90 PSI, I was hovering right around the 400 FPS mark, with a few strays going above and below. So if you're still here, I'm going to close up and let the gameplay roll. Thanks for checking out the video, guys. As always, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. My other socials are linked below, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Minigun's aiming at us. I'm going one more time. Oh, I got him. Let's go. Minigun gone.
Give me that! Let's go!
You see him?
Let's go! I think there's a guy in that window, bro. I think so.
He's hit. He's hit.
Thank you.
Medic!
Kill two
Medic!
on that side.
Right here.
I think they're all dead. I'll give you $10 if you miss that. All those guys.
Me? I'm joking. I said 10 bucks?
I got 2.
Give me your bag of babies and I got you. All day long.
Got him.
I'm trying to get
Here,
Give me some room.